G'day and welcome to the Game Day Squad Fantasy Cricket Show. I'm Dill, that's Stu, and we are the Fantasy Bros back for another live Oz Cricket preview. Look, unfortunately, no Has tonight. He is actually starting his AFL preseason, both in real life and for GDS. Absolutely pumped for what the boys are going to produce this season in the AFL side of things. However, we've still got plenty to get through for Big Bash. As always, thanks for tuning in, whether you're watching live or catching up on the replay, either on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple. It's great to see everyone getting along already. Today, we're going to preview round 14 matchups, and it's a massive round. We've only got one round of regular season left before we jump straight into finals. So if you are joining us, make sure you get your start-sit questions in the chat, and we'll do our best to answer those for you. I know over on Discord, we've already had a bunch of 50-50s head-to-head with players that people are keen on that we'll try and get through as well. Stu, we witnessed an absolute masterclass from the Brisbane Heat last night, particularly with their bowling. Look, they came back. They had one for the ages last night. The Hurricanes, what did they need? About 11 off 13 with Chowdhury at the crease, and he just couldn't get it done. Our man, Zaman Khan, who I put in the chat last night as well, was he worse than Shaheen Afridi? I think that was answered pretty quickly. Look, with that victory, it means the Heat are keeping their finals hopes alive. Are you keeping your finals hopes alive heading into round 14, mate? How did you go last round?
Yeah, g'day, Dill. G'day, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. As always, Izzy's in here first. G'day, legends. Looking forward to another bumper preview. Mel's here as well. G'day, Mel. And Ayush is here already with a 50-50 chief or Matty Short, the BBL GOAT. Yeah, mate, Brisbane Heat, fantastic, weren't they? And finally, proving that they can get it done away from home. And if they do sneak into the finals, they're probably going to need to go on a run away from home as well and go back to back, maybe. Can they do it? I'm not sure, but they certainly impressed a lot of Heat fans last night. In terms of my Game Day squad performance, not a great round 14 overall. Best finishes were 13th in Challenger. My top team champion, 26th for the round. Sitting there at 6th overall, so in the fingernail biting section in terms of trying to finish top 5, get a prize card. So everything's focused on making sure my champion team is set. Not too many rounds to go. So that's me at the moment. How are you looking, mate?
Yeah, look, I took a couple of risks last round, which I did talk about on the show. Played Jake Fraser-McGurk as an example, and a couple of other players. Didn't quite pay off across all of the teams. Finished 34th in Champ, 56th in Challenger, which is where I probably took the most risks. 22nd in Classic as well, where I played a bit of a different kind of strategy. So I was pretty happy to see that pay off a little bit. Obviously, with a lot of rain around over the next couple of days, that strategy, again, is going to have to probably come to the forefront. We're going to have a big chat about that. Has also sent through his ranks last round. He had a pretty disappointing one in Contender, 109th. Classic, he came 20th, and that's where his pod team was. He also had Carey and Lynn in there, and obviously that's a pretty decent result with those two scoring very little. And then Challenger, he finished 41st, which leaves him 15th for the season. So he's pretty keen to try and get that top 10 finish in that Challenger. So big look at that over the next couple of days in this round. Look, Stu, before we jump into everything, what can viewers expect on today's show?
Yeah, as always, we're going to preview and break down the upcoming fixtures. We've got 5 fixtures for this round. I don't know if we've had a 5 fixture round yet, so there's plenty of cricket ahead. Let's hope that the rain doesn't interfere too much. We've already had to endure 1 or 2 of those this season, and I had 2 or 3 players that got donuts as a result. So yeah, we'll preview those 5 matches. We'll look at our top picks across each of the 3 main positions. We'll also have a bit of a discussion about some potential head-to-head matchups in certain games and talk about which way we're leaning. So hopefully we can give the viewers a bit of a tip in that regard. We're going to have Bro Down Showdown continue as well. I think there's still a chance we can both catch Has, but not our chances are running out. So we've got to get something rolling as soon as possible. The viewers have won some awesome prizes throughout the season, and that'll continue as well with a couple of packs to get through later on. So those in the comments, make sure you're sticking to the end and selecting who you want to win Bro Down Showdown. Once again, if you're listening to the replay on YouTube or Apple or Spotify, jump over to the YouTube page at Fantasy Bros AU and comment which bro you think is going to win the showdown. Not too many cards to give away, so put yourself in with a chance while you still can. New users, as always, can still sign up, can still get some pretty awesome packs just for doing so. New users can sign up using that promo code SUMMER, capital S, all capitals, SUMMER, 3x3 player common packs just for doing so, as well a whole heap of bronzes. So get involved, new users, get your mates involved if you're a current user as well. The Big Bash is running out before, our focus turns to cricket and rugby league. So, Aussie rules and rugby league. So if you're a big AFL or NRL fan, make sure you continue to follow the Fantasy Bros over on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok as well, because those previews will be coming out pretty soon as our attention turn to the two big comps for the season.
Yeah, and just on that, we got a couple of little glimpses of the textbook coming along nicely for both AFL and NRL. So keep an eye out for those in the coming weeks as well, everyone that is keen. Look, quite a few in the chat now joining us. Great to see Michael Cozzy here again. He says, don't ask me who I'm picking this round. I played a Silver David Warner last round. He obviously was ruled out. We might see him later on this round as well. Max is here and he says he hopes we all end up on the right side of the weather, definitely. That is something we would love to see. Look, and just on that quickly, usually we get to this point in the season, we sort of say, hold your packs, don't open anything else. Now's not the time to sort of be opening those packs, save them for next season. But I saw Cal put on Discord that they've just had a player update for Big Bash. So maybe it's a good time to jump in and get a couple of new players that they might be pretty rare and get them into your side as well and have a couple of decent pods. So there's still plenty of opportunity when we open some packs. Alrighty, mate, let's get into it. We've got 5 games, as you said, to get through, and we've got quite a few things to talk about in terms of weather, as well as a couple of big double gamers. So we've got 3 teams that are on the double game. We always say don't necessarily rely on those double gamers, but with 3, I think a lot of teams and a lot of coaches are probably going to focus on those 3. So let's run through some of the stats for each game, and then we'll throw it over and we'll have a bit of a chat about those. Look, first game tonight is at Marvel. It's under the roof, so it shouldn't really be a matter. The weather shouldn't be a matter at all, sorry. I know that there was some rain around, but luckily Marvel has that roof there and hopefully it closes all the way this time. And on the past, they've had some issues. Look, all player average at Marvel is 34.3, sort of mid-range. The first innings batting is only 22. Chasing is a massive 36, so it might be all about the bat flip tonight. And since last season, the Gades have restricted the Scorchers to 34, which I thought was interesting, whereas the Scorchers have actually allowed almost 40 points to the Gades. So the Renegades are not a team that we really rely on to score a lot of GDS points, but maybe tonight we might see something different. Over to the second game, and this is where the question marks now fall. The Sixers up against the Thunder at the SCG, 6:15 Australian Eastern Standard Time kickoff. Big chance of rain there, chance of showers, most likely in late afternoon, evening. There's also a bit of a thunderstorm around potentially afternoon, evening. Look, it does say 50%. I hate when they say 50%. It's always 50% chance to rain. It either it will or it won't. But look, it's at least 25% of at least 7 mil plus. So yeah, we've got to keep an eye on that. And there's not a huge amount of pivot options there, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. At the SCG, all player averages this season, actually 38 GDS points, which is the 3rd best venue. And again, similar stats for the batting first versus chasing. 22.3 GDS points for the first batting side, whereas chasing 33.5. So again, if we get a full match there, if that rain disappears, then potentially it's the chasing team that we're looking at. Sixers have restricted their crosstown rivals to 30 GDS points since last season, while the Thunder have been giving up a massive 42 points to the Sixers. And it's no wonder, especially with a lot of their guns back now. Heading to that third game where we do see some clear skies, which is great to see. Strikers up against the Renegades in the Renegades second game. That's Adelaide Oval at 4 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. So a bit of an earlier one, Saturday afternoon. Great way to spend your Saturday. As I said, clear skies, all player average is 36. The chasing batting team actually scores 38.6 on average versus the first innings batting only 24. So again, that bat flip super important. We've talked about that bat flip at the Adelaide Oval quite a few times this season, and it's paid dividends, obviously. And then finally, we head over to the Scorchers for their second game over at Optus. Scorchers up against the Stars. Shouldn't be too likely to get any rain there. There's no real chance, but there's some partly cloudy weather there, which shouldn't be too much of an issue. It is 7:15 Australian Eastern Standard Time on Saturday evening. The all-player average at Optus is 35.4. Not too much difference in the first versus second batting average, 21 versus 18, so not too much there. The key for me, though, last season the Scorchers restricted the Stars to only 27 GDS points, while the Stars allowed a massive 42 GDS points on average to Scorchers. Obviously, Stars are on fire at the moment, as are the Scorchers. Both will probably play finals, so it'll be interesting to see how that stat ends up. And then finally, at the Gabba, unfortunately, we have a massive chance of showers, potential chance of thunderstorms in the morning. Look, it's been super hot in Queensland and in Brisbane the last few days, and no doubt that's going to continue. Generally, when that happens and that humidity is high, we end up with an afternoon, evening thunderstorm. So let's hope that it doesn't happen. But if it does, it means none of those Heat players will be able to play. It also means that those Sixers might not get a second game. So we might completely miss Sixers altogether based on the rain at the moment. If we do get some play, the Gabba, second best venue for GDS points, averaging 38.5. And then the big ones across the last two seasons, the Heat have given up an average of almost 40 GDS points to the Sixers, whereas the Heat have been restricted by the Sixers to only 26.5. So a lot of information, a lot of weather warning there. Stu, what's the biggest thing that stands out for you based on everything we've just talked about?
Yeah, it's not so much the stats actually for this round. It's certainly that weather and trying to balance targeting some of those teams with double matches, but also ensuring you've got some flexibility to pivot away, particularly for the boys in magenta there tomorrow night in Sydney, given the outlook on Sunday looks even worse.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we might look at the attractiveness of Sydney tomorrow. They've got the Heat on Sunday because they've got two matches in the round. We could get a shortened one tomorrow. Like, this is worst case, obviously, and we could get a washout on Sunday and all the Sixers that you're plugging in have a reduced score or dare I say it, even two donuts to follow up on the if that Sydney smash was on tonight, even if there was weather around. If it was really bad, and with the Sunday forecast being pretty poor here in Brizzy as well, you could probably pivot across to a few extra Renegades players easier, but we like plugging in a few extra Sixers this round over the Renegades, which haven't been too reliable. But then the issue comes, well, tomorrow, if the rain does get worse and then Sunday's still looking pretty bad, how many Sixers are you going to take a chance on in a potentially shortened affair? Because you can't pivot across to the Renegades. The Scorchers are locked out as well, and they're the other two teams on the double. So some really difficult questions for coaches, but that's what makes this game so good. I know some coaches have played it really safe in previous rounds and they haven't flirted with the weather at all. So I think some coaches might avoid some Sixers and plug in plenty of Renegades and Scorchers tonight. I'm not going to do that just yet. I'm going to hopefully leave a few Sixers spots up my sleeve, but then pivot across to, the remaining teams. And of course, the strikers, maybe some Stars as well. And if worse comes to worse, fingers crossed and pray for the Heat on Sunday. So, yeah, look, we've got to stay flexible as a cricket coach. I'm not going to panic just yet. Give me 24 hours. And if the weather's still pretty poor in Sydney, then the panic alarms will set in. But at least we've still got a couple of decent pivot options. Like you mentioned, the Adelaide game looks a pretty good one to target some of the Adelaide players. Hopefully, they can bat second, given the success that chasing teams have had down there at Adelaide. If worse comes to worse, then let's look at some Stars players available. And let's be honest, they've been really good. They don't need two matches to succeed. The likes of Sammy Harper, despite a down game last round, Stoinis, Curran, those blokes have been on fire. Siddle and Ralph have been decent as well. Schwepson's bowling really nicely. So at least we do have some pivot options. I'm going to say let's not panic today. Panic tomorrow if we have to, but at least we've got some options moving forward. What's your take on all of that?
Yeah, I would love to not have to panic today, but I'm sort of sitting here looking at my team at the moment, and I've got 5 Sixers in one of my teams, and yeah, that's a lot. We had a little bit of a chat beforehand, and I've got my pivot options ready to go, but yeah, like you said, I think the Stars and strikers have given us enough GDS points across this season where I wouldn't feel too bad if I had to pivot to the likes of Stoinis, Curran, Harper, as you say. And then, look, we'll obviously talk a little bit about Matt Short. Jamie Overton is starting to find some form. I don't know what that means in terms of whether we play him or not, but there are some other options, obviously. But let's get into it. Again, if you've got any questions in the chat, feel free to chuck them in and we'll try and get to them. And as I said, those ones in the Discord we'll get to as well. But let's kick it off, with the top averaging batsmen, wicket keepers up to this round. And look, Sammy Harper, as we said, top of the pile there, still averaging 68. He had a down game with the bat, but he was still able to find some decent points there last game as well. A couple of catches and a stumping. It means he's still well on his way to topping the averages for the season. Cooper Conley should be picked in pretty much everyone's side, I think, this round, having the 2 matches. Obviously, that gold in batting and potentially bowling as well. Matty Renshaw comes in at 3rd on 62. David Warner, question marks over whether he's going to play this round or not. So keep an eye out on that closer to the time. And then Aussie's still with that average of 60 after not many the last night. Based on that, are we looking at targeting any of those? Or Stu, are you going to look somewhere else and target someone that we haven't really talked about all season?
Yeah, I think you're spot on with the Cooper Connolly shout. That's an obvious target. We don't need to speak too much about him, I wouldn't imagine. But no, I'm going to look elsewhere for a couple of other spots in my team, and one of them from the bat wicketkeeper position will be a man with a 0-point total score, 0-point average, despite playing 1 match so far this season. Unfortunately, that resulted in a DMP. And of course, I'm referring to the great Steve Smith, who absolutely thrives at this time of the year, following a Test series victory when he pulls on the pink colours for the Sydney Sixers. I got him at the top of the batting pool this round, even with some weather concerns around, but it's just because of how dominant he was last season. And he looked okay in his return to the Big Bash in those pretty poor conditions a few days ago. But if anyone needs a reminder about last season's stats, he played 3 matches at the end of the tournament. He piled on 231 GDS points in those 3 matches. At a super average of, 115 or something. He had 173 runs, 12 fours, 11 sixes, and opening the batting is what's excellent. We saw that again with their washed out match, that he's not going to bat at 3 or 4 like he does for the Aussies. He's got that direct role at the top of the order there for the Sixers, and he's absolutely fantastic when the field is up. He can pick the gaps, he can play a range of shots. It doesn't always come off, it doesn't always look pretty, but when he's on a roll, boy, can he find the boundary and clear the fence. So I think that match he returned, he only got the 19 from 16. He finished not out, so he was certainly could have gone on to anything, really. He looked a little bit scratchy, but the fact he still stayed around, he hit a 4, he hit a 6, probably just, blew a few cobwebs out in that transition from Test to the short form. He's had plenty of time between that innings and now to work on that short form batting. I think he's primed for at least 1, hopefully 2 big innings. Obviously, if he gets the go ahead, the red flag is obviously the weather for me. It's looming in Sydney tomorrow. It looks pretty dangerous on Sunday, but Smith's scoring profile is exactly what we'd want when a match might be shortened. So as long as the match goes ahead and we do get a result, Smith only needs that sort of 15 to 20 ball cameo, and he can race along to 30 or 40 very quickly. So if we do only get half a match and it does go ahead and we do get scores locked in, him batting at the top of the innings there, he's going to go after the bowling. I think we can still return a fairly safe result there. But the fact that the cherry's just dangling there are 2 Sydney Sixers matches on the score sheet. At the moment, he's in most of my sides. I can't leave him out, particularly even if they had 1 match. I probably couldn't leave Steve Smith out. The fact that they've got 2, yes, I know weather is a big concern, but he's in there at the moment. I'll reassess tomorrow night. If it looks like tomorrow is even unlikely of getting any play, it's a really easy pivot. If there's any chance that he'll see some meaningful time tomorrow night, he'll still be in, and it would just be a benefit, a cherry on the top, if he does play Sunday with the chance to build on that score. So, yeah, the 2-match schedule is awesome. He probably still makes it if they've got the 1 game only. But, yeah, I hope we see something big from Smudge. I know you think I'm pretty biased because I've got his prize card, but no, we saw enough in that first match. We've seen enough over the previous seasons. Lock Smudge in for a big one, I say.
Yeah, I was going to actually mention it wouldn't have anything to do with your prize card. But look, no, you're 100% right. Obviously, elite average that he had last season. But I think the other key thing for me is that, we sort of look at Smith and we think he's that typical test match batsman, which, he obviously is. He's got all his accolades there from a test match point of view, but he can transition really well into the T20 arena. He is able to increase that scoring quite significantly, and he can get that strike rate up quite high. As you said, he hit a 6 and a 4 the other night, and he can turn it around and just take a 15-20 runs from 15-20 balls into a 60, 70, 80 from 40 or so. So yeah, really keen to see Smith actually get out and have a decent bat, just as long as that rain hides away and we get a proper game there. Look, Luke Skipper is here. Great to see Skip, as always. Warner with 1 game and injury cloud, or Seifert Brown /JFM? That is a great question. I'm going to talk about, and we're going to have a conversation a little bit in a minute about the Brown versus Jake Fraser-McGurk matchup. And Mian also put in earlier about Seifert versus Rizwan. So we can also maybe mention Warner in that as well. So Skipper, stick around, mate. We'll have a bit of a chat about that soon. But look, my player that I'm targeting for the bat wicketkeeper position is my favourite player in the Big Bash. It is Finn Allen. I feel like I haven't talked about him enough this season. So here we go, strap in. Look, he shapes as an absolute high upside player, I think, this round. The double, obviously, but even without the double, I feel like, again, he's another sort of Steve Smith option where I feel like you might lock him in even if he only had that 1 game. He's just averaging below 50 GDS points this season. And he's already shown that he's got a massive ceiling. He hit that 106-point performance against the Heat earlier in the year, and that was unreal. But it's about when he gets going. Look, if he can get going at the top of the order, he racks up those points quickly. And we've seen, Marsh have a big crack at the top of the order. We've seen Finn Allen have a go. Even Aaron Hardy's racked up some points at the top of near the top of the order as well. So there's plenty of opportunity for all of them to have a good crack. But with 2 bites of the cherry, I think there's just an absolute upside we can't ignore. This first matchup is probably the best one. I think at Marvel, the roof's over. It's been pretty batter-friendly for most of the season, allowing an average of 39.1 GDS points to batsmen, which is the second highest of all grounds. Josh Inglis obviously been ruled out as well. Cricket Australia want to do a little management plan for Josh Inglis, so we probably won't see him. I would suggest maybe for the rest of the tournament, not 100% sure, but in any case, for this game at least, I would expect Allen to take the gloves. I know we had a finger injury the other week and Laurie Evans had the gloves. Didn't know Laurie Evans could play wicketkeeper. And at the end of that game, I still question whether Laurie Evans could play wicketkeeper or not. It was a pretty disappointing outing. So hopefully Allen is going to take those gloves again and we get to see some potential upside. Obviously, he doesn't have the wicketkeeper status in GDS. He's got the batsman status or the batsman position. But wicketkeepers against the Renegades, they've actually scored 46.5 or averaging 46.5 GDS points, which is the most in the competition as well. So I would expect there Allen should have a big game in this first one. It's going to be the second game that's a little bit tougher. Allen heading back home at Optus against the Stars. The Stars obviously have some pretty decent bowling options. They've had a great season already, but Allen's probably struggled the most at home, which is quite surprising. You'd think the ball coming on quite nicely onto the bat with that speed and that pace and that bounce, you'd think it'd be quite a decent outing for him, but he's only had a top score of 56 there. But with that double game, I think, look, again, we reiterate, double game, the best score is the one that counts. I think I'm happy to back Allen based on both the ceiling that he provides and then the opportunity for him to have the gloves and potentially take a couple of catches behind the stumps.
Yeah, you don't need to convince me. He's certainly high up on my priority list, given the double, because he's got such a high ceiling. You're just a bit more confident that he can at least deliver in one of those matches. You'd be a bit more touch and go maybe if he's only having that one game at home. Scores of 16, 43 and 8 with the bat at home. You know, he's still proven that he can get off to a start. He's just got to sort of knuckle down and get going. A lot of his matches actually with the bat, he's gotten going, but he just hasn't gone on with that big one that we saw a few times last season. I think you're spot on. I think he's a great play. He's got the upside. The weather won't impact him like it will a number of those other players, particularly from Sydney or Matty Renshaw for Brizzy. So yeah, no pushback from me. You don't need to convince me a lot. I think he's in for a great round, and he should be pretty popular alongside Cooper Connolly, I'd imagine.
Yeah, definitely. Those probably the top two that I'd pick straight away. Put Smithy in there, and that's a pretty elite looking back wicketkeeper position there, along with potentially Flip, or if we need to swap that over to Harper, I think that would look pretty good there. Look, as I mentioned, we are going to debate a couple of players. The first one we're going to talk about is Jake Fraser-McGurk versus Josh Brown. I obviously talked about JFM last show as a potential pod against Brown. Both players ended up surpassing that sort of 33 plus average mark that we've seen for batsmen throughout the season. However, Jake Fraser-McGurk probably just got one over, just on Brown a little bit, scoring 51, which was 3 more than Brown, but it came about from his catches more so than anything. I think he had 3 catches in the field, which is pretty good to see. Both players now have the 2 games, one obviously under the Dome tonight, and then one over at Adelaide Oval, which, as we said, really important, that bat flip. If you're going one way, Stu, which one are you looking at out of those 2? And then I guess the follow-up is, would you just take one of them over Warner with the injury cloud, or would you wait and see?
Yeah, so this will help Skipper out. Hope you're still here, buddy. I don't think I can go with Warner. He has said obviously that he would love to play in the smash against their crosstown rivals, and he'll probably do everything he can. But how fit, how good is his knee going to be? He's obviously getting on in terms of age. He's very he loves his cricket. He's going to he wears his heart on his sleeve. He's going to do everything he can to get up there. But look, he's had those couple of massive knocks over the previous week. The body's got to be feeling it. The knee's not going to be 100%. We know that. I just couldn't trust him when you've got so many other good options, and the likes of JFM, Brown or Seifert on the double. For me, to answer that question, no. Warner's down that list. Can he go well? Absolutely. Will people with his all-star be playing him? Probably. It makes sense. But I think there's just too many question marks or negatives surrounding his situation, and a few positives surrounding some of the other players. It'd be Josh Brown for me. Yep. And if you asked me that, 5, 6, 7 rounds ago, I would have said, what's Josh Brown still doing in that Renegades team? He was pretty poor in his first 2 or 3 knocks, could barely hit it off the square in one of those matches, but hasn't he turned things around? And look, he's been a little bit unlucky as well. He's been looking at some really big scores, and then a couple of, really good deliveries or some good fielding efforts has restricted what could have almost been a monster score. We keep saying it. Someone in such good form has to have a down week at some point. That could be this round for Josh Brown, but you can sort of pencil that out a little bit or rub that out a fraction, because he's got the double just in case. He might not go so well tonight, but that's okay. Chances are he's going to have that big explosion again not too soon after. So because he opens the batting, because he's been the man in form, Seifert has been a little bit too impatient. Yeah. He's not hitting the ball as cleanly. Yeah, I think Joshy Brown holds the biggest ceiling of that lot. I just can't get to JFM after what he's shown. I think last season he might have had one explosive match, so that could happen this round. There's just nothing indicating that. Bit of safety, bit of form, bit of explosiveness up the top. Give me Josh Brown.
Yeah, I think JFM actually had that explosive game. I think 95 GDS points, or maybe 95 runs against the Heat at Marvel. So potentially tonight could be the one. The other thing for me, I'm going to lean JFM just because of the stats and what the stats are saying. The Gades are playing the Scorchers and the Strikers. Scorchers against batsmen coming out at 1. They're only allowing 18.8. And then the Strikers against the top of the order for batsmen, only 18.5, versus that number 3 spot where JFM should come out again. The Scorchers are allowing almost 50 GDS points to number 3s, and then the Strikers are allowing 30 to number 3s. So purely based on that and no other reason, I'd be leaning towards Jake Fraser-McGurk, but I can see the argument for Josh Brown. He is in a different sort of form that we probably haven't seen him in for a while. When he, since he had that red jersey on, we have to probably go all the way back to when he was wearing that teal for us to see this kind of form that he's in at the moment. So yeah, for me, the stats tell one story, but then obviously the eye test is another story as well. The other question that was asked by Mian over on Discord was Rizwan versus Seifert. Do you have any thoughts about Mohammad Rizwan at all? Surprised that he's even named in the side to start with?
Yeah, what sort of mindset is he going to be coming into this fixture with? Maybe a big point to prove, and wouldn't that be exciting if he just comes out all guns blazing and a big, maybe a big farewell, a big send-off, a big up yours to the Renegades, because he's obviously very frustrated about getting hooked, and then Sutherland, not really going on with, I think he got 1 run or something before getting run out. So, yeah, kind of every right to feel dirty, but coming out and, voicing some frustration. I don't know if that was the right call. Maybe he comes out with a point to prove. I don't know. He's been out of form. He can't hit the ball to the boundary consistently enough. The other three that you've mentioned can. Seifert's form hasn't been great, but I wouldn't be going near either of them, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. The only thing that I had potentially was whoever was taking the gloves might be the difference maker. There's been 3 catches behind the stumps in 2 games at Marvel, and then 4 catches by wicket keepers in the 4 games at Adelaide. So there's some upside there potentially. Obviously, not a huge amount of upside, but some. Nonetheless, look, we're going to get teams soon, so we might circle back when they come along. But let's crack on with the all-rounders. And on screen, you can see a number of the top averaging all-rounders. Look, we've got Marcus Stoinis obviously way out ahead on 80 GDS points. Jackie Edwards, Aaron Hardy, Tom Curran had a massive game the other night, but taking that 4-5 was unreal from him. Jack Wildermuth still sitting around that 60 mark, even though he's not really getting a decent bat or bowl anymore. And then Matt Short's dropped down a little bit. He's averaging 57 GDS points. Based on that, where are we looking for our all-rounder this week, Stu?
Yeah, some really good options. Obviously, the 2 Melbourne Stars boys only have the 1 fixture. I'd still look at Stoinis if his finger injury, of course, is okay. We'll have to find out some news on that. If not, Curran maybe moves up a spot, which makes him a really nice play. But for me, again, I'm going for someone not on that list, but also someone who might have 2 matches in doubt. Sam Curran. He's shown us a little bit so far this tournament. He's teased us a little bit. I've been big on him since he's come here. I want to have his card in my side when he has a big score. So I'm going to back him in for at least 1 big knock this round. Fingers crossed, obviously, the weather, same situation with Steve Smith. I don't have to repeat too much of that. But, yeah, I still like him despite being, in a team that has so many good bowling options and so many good all-rounders as well. But being, that international signing, he's obviously going to demand, a really good role in that side, and he should be getting at least 3 or 4 overs with the ball. But, with Mitchy Starc there, with so many other good bowlers killing it, he might not necessarily get the, the really important overs. I think, there was an option between 3 players that still had an over to bowl in one of his matches right at the end there. And the skip didn't go toward him. So hopefully that changes a little bit because that 19th and 20th over is so important. But I don't think he needs that like some other bowlers necessarily do. He's shown enough with the bat previously, and then in his couple of innings here, being at 4 is really nice, and hopefully that continues as well. The more time that he can spend out there in the middle, the more his ceiling is going to improve. So just the 35 GDS points with 17 runs, 2 fours, and no wickets. That output, on the surface doesn't look very good, but we should expect him to, have a really good role moving forward with both bat and ball. Has told us all about his stats in the ILT 20. If you listen to that episode, viewers, you'd know exactly how much form he was coming into the tournament, where he led his team to a really comprehensive tournament victory, and he was actually a better batsman than he was with the ball, but he was still elite with both disciplines as well. So, look, I think he holds some top score potential if the Sydney Sixers get both games, just because of how good he can be with both bat and ball. Jackie Edwards, maybe has been a little bit more consistent with ball, but a little bit limited in terms of what he might be able to do with the bat in terms of comparing them position for position, given Sam Curran is likely going to be higher in that order. Again, reassess tomorrow evening if that match doesn't look like it's going ahead. I think a lot of coaches will look at Edwards, even Dwarshus, Abbott, Mitchy Starc's in the bowling lineup. Gee, that Sydney Sixers team looks red hot. They're going to take wickets. They're going to get catches in the outfield. They're going to score runs. I'm backing Sammy Curran in as one of my 4 all-rounders and pretty confident that he'll put something together.
Yeah, nice. I like it. And look, if you're sitting there thinking, yep, Sam Curran, I'm keen on him, but I just hate the weather, I've got a better option for you, and that is Mitchell Marsh. I reckon he shapes as one of the key all-rounder ceiling plays this round. And if you're really nervous about that weather, just don't worry about any sixes and just roll out a couple of scorchers all-rounders in Aaron Hardy and Mitch Marsh. We've obviously seen the devastating nature that Mitch Marsh can offer with the bat. He's obviously not offering anything with the ball. He made that very clear earlier in the season. He was on the microphone with the commentators and said, look, I'm not going to bowl at all. So don't expect him to bowl. But as an all-rounder, there's definitely some opportunity there with the bat, especially with the double game and looking to be no rain for them. Look, he's currently averaging just shy of 50 GDS points for the season, but it doesn't probably reflect the form that he's currently in. He had obviously that really slow start. He had the duck early on. Then after a few games, he was around that average of about 7.25 GDS points, which was really low. But from there, he's just completely turned things around, and he's now averaging a massive 91.5 across his last 4 matches. So we've already seen what that kind of looks like when he's at his best. Marsh has produced probably 2 genuine ceiling games across that stretch. He scored 155 points against the Canes and then 116 against the Strikers. And when he gets in there, when he's just got his mind focused on the job, there's really few players in the competition who can match that ability that he has to really dominate an innings and then pick up points really quickly. And obviously, look, we saw that. We've seen that plenty of times. And the raw numbers probably underline that as well. He scored 279 runs this season, which is sitting equal 6th overall. He's cleared the rope 17 times and add to that 24 fours as well, showing really that high strike rate, that really T20-esque batting that we love to see and how destructive he can be. Pair him up with Finn Allen at the top of the order, hoping that they both go big in their 2 games. Really just I'm keen to see that, and that's sort of where I'm looking for a lot of my teams this round, with the likelihood that the Sixers might not have a game. And look, obviously only his best performance counts, so let's hope he has a big one tonight and we can sit back, feet up and relax and not worry about the second game. But if he doesn't have that ceiling match, then we know that we can look at a second game and we can have a big one there.
Yeah, two runs in my team, Mitch Marsh, once last year, once this year, both -2 points. Haven't gone back to him since. So very brave man. But yeah, look, he's the captain of the T20 side for the Aussies, which obviously speaks to what he's capable of, and he'll be looking to continue some pretty decent form moving into that tournament in a couple of months' time. So, if you can get him a massive score tonight, you'll be absolutely cheering, because not only does he have that pod value, he's also every chance to go just as big or even bigger in the next game. I don't mind it whatsoever. Just before we get a toss announcement, I'm not sure if who's won the bat flip, but is it right in saying the Scorchers have lost 7 bat flips in a row? I think they're going for their 8th. So,
love it.
Love it. Here we go. It looks like that's 8 in a row.
Nice.
Melbourne Renegades have won.
Melbourne Renegades win the flip.
And they're going to bowl. Apparently, according to the Crick Info commentary, 8 in a row is a 1 in 256 chance of a head or tail.
There you go. There you go.
All right.
Wow.
So that's the... Yeah.
And we'll get some teams to you soon. Obviously, the big news that TCBBB has put in the chat is Behrendorff has been dropped. So we'll have a chat about that soon. Obviously, Doggett making his way back into the side. Look, just quickly, we had a message from Ayush over in Discord, and I believe earlier in the chat as well. Just a quick debate, and then we'll jump into the lineups for tonight's game. Matt Short on the single game versus Will Sutherland on the double. It's a tough one here. We've seen Matt Short coming off that total of 8 GDS points last game, only playing the one game. Sutherland on the double. Look, Sutherland's probably averaging a little bit less. He's at 38.5 GDS points. Short averaging around 50 GDS points. He's probably got a bigger ceiling. Where do you think you would be going with that matchup?
Yeah, it probably is that ceiling versus safety. I think, Matt Short has shown time and time again consistently that he's got that monster score in him. He's just teased us so often this year. It just hasn't come off as frequently as we probably expect. The Chief probably a little bit more consistent. Only the one score in single figures, a couple of 20s, 30. He's gone over 60 2 or 3 times. So he doesn't quite have that ceiling. Even if he gets the 2 matches, it's unlikely that he's going to get close to a Matt Short ceiling. So I think that's the big question mark. Do you back the Matt Short bounce back and the ceiling that he can possess, or do you just hope with a little bit of safety that if Short does fail, Sutherland's score is going to be pretty decent. It won't if Short does fire. You've gone Sutherland. You'd probably be happy that I've chosen Sutherland's safety. He's got 40 or 50 points less. but it could have been a lot worse if I went the other way.
Yeah.
I'm in the camp of go the upswing enough to be useful in 2 or 3 roles. He just needs to do a little bit better with the bat. So a bit of fence sitting there. Sutherland for safety. If you want the ceiling, I'm still a big Matty Short fan.
And I think that's the key. If you get to the end of this round and you've left Matt Short out and he scores 120, are you going to be more annoyed by that? Or if you played him and he scored 8, 10, whatever that might be, which one are you going to be more annoyed at when you get to the end of this round and you look at? And I think that's going to be your answer. The other key for me is I'm a big stats guy. You know that. Short plays against the Gades, they allow an average of 42.5 to all-rounders. Southo plays against the Scorchers and then the Strikers, they allow 43.8 and 47.1 respectively. So Sutherland's probably got that slight advantage in the stats, but you're right, it's all about that upside. Matty Short's gone over 100 twice this season in terms of GDS points, whereas Sutherland, I think his biggest output was 61. So potential upside, I think for me, beats out the potential of double game. As you can see on screen, we've got the Renegades lineup. Joshy Brown, Tim Seifert at the top of the order. Jake Fraser-McGurk coming in at first drop. Rizzy's got the gloves again at 4. Harry Dixon at 5, which is an addition there. Hassan Khan, their all-rounder at 6. Sutherland 7. Sam Elliott retains his spot. Gurinder Sandhu's been in some unreal form. And then Doggett comes in with Adam Zampa. And then on the other side, we've got the Scorchers. Mitch Marston, Finale at the top of the order. Cooper Connolly at first drop as we expected. Aaron Hardy, should have a massive game at 4. Ashton Turner, Laurie Evans, Nick Hobson. Laurie Evans it doesn't detract from my Finale statements before. We have seen in the past though the wicket keeping thing next to the players, and then it turns up not necessarily happening as well. So we'll just have to wait and see with that. Jai Richardson at 8. Luke Holt remains at 9. Payne and Beardman finishing that team off. Based on that, is there anything in particular, anything that you would want to talk about, or any interesting points there, Stu?
No, I think the Perth Scorchers team is probably as expected, with the news that we weren't going to see Josh Inglis for at least this match. I don't mind Finn Allen in the outfield. He's taken plenty of catches. He fields in some hot spots. He's been millimetres from a run out already this season as well. So, yeah, that doesn't concern me whatsoever. Aaron Hardy always shifts up when Josh Inglis isn't there. That's only a positive for him. It's probably just the David Payne versus Jai Richardson shout. Let's leave that for a bowler debate a little bit later when we get to the bowler position. And in terms of Renegades, still Joshy Brown and Tim Seifert with JFM in that number 3 spot. You said how much better the number 3 spot has performed in both matchups. Still Joshy Brown with the field up, even a miss hit often clears that infield or finds a way to the boundary. So, yeah, it's still in for me. But then no Tommy Rogers, the right Tom Rogers. There was some chat around maybe seeing him return, but also no Jason Behrendorff. I think that just solidifies Gurinder Sandhu as being another pretty popular pick. Gee, he's impressed and made some people end up with some serious egg on their faces. 2 scores over 199, just the 1 down game of 11. And he's getting all the key overs. They're bowling first again, so they're getting through 20 overs. I think, yeah, let's go Gurinder.
Yep, definitely. Talking about Gurinder Sandhu and bowlers, let's jump across to our bowlers now. And on screen, you will be able to see the top 5 averaging bowlers. Gurinder Sandhu at the top of that list there, averaging 61. David Payne, a couple of games, and he's averaging 57. Great to see. Xavier Bartlett remains within that top 5, averaging 51, and what a great performance he had last night. Harris Ralph, interesting, just quickly, Harris Ralph and Peter Siddle, the 1 up, 1 down didn't quite work. They both ended up on 23 GDS points that last game, which was interesting. But nonetheless, Joel Paris rounds out that top 5 with an average of 46. Based on that, mate, where are you looking to play? I'm assuming you're pretty high on David Payne in particular.
That's correct. Yeah, he paid off really nicely last match with an 84. He got 3 wickets and bowled some really important overs. Had a 29 score before that. Probably turned a lot of coaches off with just the 1 wicket that match, but showed how destructive he can be. I think he got 2 wickets in 2 sort of junk wickets in 1 over, but that's what happens when you're bowling those really important overs. I think if the Scorchers can post a really big total in one or both games, even if the Scorchers bat first, that just means, there's every chance they can bowl the opposition team out, given how stacked they are from 1 through 11. So from a numbers perspective, 113 total points, averaging 56.5, small sample size, but that number there backs is pretty nice in terms of when you compare that to all of the other bowlers. You can see on screen that, only he's the second highest averaging bowler already. So a 50 or a mid-50 score is pretty handy anyway. And he's shown from 2 matches that that's what he can get. He's got the 2 matches again this round. So we should see at least a high score, maybe a low score, or 2 middling scores will do me. He's just been really, really consistent with the ball, particularly his ability to get some dot balls. And for a bowler, if they don't take wickets, plenty of dot balls are crucial. They can just get those numbers up a little bit higher. There's every chance for a maiden as well, particularly early on. And then if a bowler can get a catch or 2 in the outfield, all that is really handy base, even if they're not taking too many wickets. But yeah, he generates so much pressure. The Scorchers have 2 really nice matchups. I think a lot of people are going to compare him with Jai Richardson and maybe pick one of them in the team. Richardson's obviously the household name. We've seen him succeed so frequently in the Big Bash. But to me, there's just a little bit of a question mark, and it always is, around Richardson's workload and just how fragile he can be, with that shoulder. Payne, on the other hand, he's locked into that consistent role as the international. He's trusted to bowl those meaningful overs. I think he provides multi-wicket opportunities across both matches. No question marks over his role and durability like Jai Richardson. So if I'm only picking one Scorcher across all my teams, it's going to be David Payne.
Hey, you forgot about my man, Marley Beardman.
Who?
Unreal young gun. He's starting to find some form. He's taken a couple of decent wickets. You never know. He could pop off. Hey, he's got the 2 games. Don't discount him. I've put him into one of my sides. Good. Let's just say that. Alrighty. So look, the big player that I'm going for is Mitchell Starc. We've already talked about the unreal Sydney Sixers side now that they've got all their stars back. And it's funny, the last couple of weeks we've seen the Sixers turn out and only have all-rounders and not have any bowling options. So we finally get a bowler into that lineup. Unfortunately, it might be that they don't even get a game. So obviously, in taking Mitch Starc, you've got to have a pivot option. And I just made a couple of late changes there in my team just while you were having a chat there, Stu, just so that I can make sure if Mitch Starc doesn't get a game, I can then pivot to someone like a Harris Ralph or something like that if that occurs. But look, I think Mitch Starc is going to be one of the most exciting picks of the round. He makes his long-awaited return. It's been a long time since 2014, 2015 season where we last saw Mitch Starc. And I know that he's been on the books a couple of times. He's just never had that opportunity. Now he does. And look, he's only played 10 career BBL games, which is absolutely insane to think that for how long he's been around. And I know they showed some some footage the other night of him knocking over a number of poles, and it was unreal to watch him in action. But his numbers are absolutely elite in Big Bash. He's had 20 wickets from 10 career games at an average of 14.85 and a strike rate of 11.2. Just shows the impact that he can have when he's unleashed in this short format of the game. And look, at his peak, Starc was one of the best white ball bowlers in world cricket. Across 153 T20 matches, he's taken 207 wickets with the best figures of 5 for 35. And right now he's arguably probably in the best form in his career. He played all 5 test matches. I know he had an interview today and said he's got a whole bunch of time between now and his next lot of cricket. So he's pretty keen to get a few games in and then put his feet up in the off season, or, what we would call the off season. So I'm keen to see him come in. He's coming off back-to-back player of the series performances against England and West Indies as well. And we know how damaging he can be early, but it's all about, I think, the death bowling. And, you touched on Curran there potentially missing some overs or maybe not those key roles because of Starc back in the side. So I think he will get some of that death bowling, and that's what obviously excites us the most. Junk wickets, whatever you want to call it, it's absolute key and gold for those bowlers at the back end of the game. And look, his pace, his Yorkers, variations, all of those make him a constant threat to take a wicket at the back end, where those batters are forced to take some extra risks, or it's at the tail end where they don't have as much skill as previous. And look, like you said, sorry, Stu. Same with Sam Curran. Stark shapes as one of the best bowler picks this round with the 2 games, albeit with that weather around. So maybe the option is have Stark there, have your Renegades and your Scorchers bowler, and then if the weather's not looking good, have your pivot then to your star or potentially maybe a Lloyd Pope or something like that from the strikers if you're rating the strikers spin to win at the moment. So it's all about having those pivot options. But for me, if that weather disappears, then Starkey all day.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. If the Sixers only had one scheduled match, a bit like Steve Smith, I think you'd still plug him in anyway, knowing just how big his upside is. If he could do what he did to England, imagine what he can do to the likes of, some local cricketers here in the Big Bash that don't have the same household names. Yeah, love that play. I think he's going to go massive, and he's got some sneaky upside with the bat. He probably won't need to use it at all for this tournament, given how deep the Sixers do bat. But we know that's always handy for bowlers if they do get in a bit of trouble and are chasing a lot and lose a few late wickets. He's shown us that he can even outscore some of the actual batsmen in the Aussie team. So it wouldn't surprise to see him get some nice handy upside.
Yeah, definitely. And look,
the Willow as well.
Mian has jumped in. Sorry to just cut you off there, Stu. Mian's jumped in and said, sorry, guys, got disconnected. We cover 50-50 decisions already. We have covered a couple, and let's get into one more. We do have a little bit of time before the first ball is bowled, but we also obviously want to try and finish this so we can get some of our changes to our team. But look, there's one more in terms of the bowlers. We touched on Gurinder Sandhu and how good he's been. Brendan Doggett, obviously the test start, he's returning to the side again. We saw him have one game already. If you had to make a decision between Gurinder Sandhu or Doggett, are you going to lean with the experience that Doggett has, or are we going to go with sort of the form that Sandhu has after, like you said, hitting 100 GDS points twice and then 99 as well so far this season?
Yeah, I think he's just been too consistent and too good, and that obviously earns a lot of respect from the captain as well. Just because an Aussie test bowler is coming back into the fray doesn't mean that Gurinder is going to be underused or not getting those important overs. He's been given the ball time and time again and done the job for his skipper whenever he's asked. So the Doggett inclusion is obviously going to be very positive for the Renegades. But I think from a GDS perspective, you can look at it 2 ways. Gurinder Sandhu is clearly going to be the most owned Renegade bowler, just given his form, his stats, everything else. Brendan Doggett is just as good, if not a better bowler than him. So he's got every chance to get a bag of wickets himself, and he's going to be the underplayed guy. So we've seen the form. We know what we can sort of expect from Gurinder Sandhu. He's got the 2 matches where he can get at least one big score. There's nothing wrong picking Brendan Doggett, but there's just nothing saying that this is the right choice. Pick what we've seen, pick what we know works. Every other coach is going to do it. So just find your pot elsewhere, I'd say.
Yeah, interestingly, Brendan Doggett did play one game earlier in the season, game 30. Neither of them in that game scored any points. They both had sort of less than 10, I believe. So there's no real stats to back either one when they play together. The great thing for me is if you pick either, I think the stats are on your side. Strikers allow an average of 44.8 GDS points to bowlers, which is the most in the competition. And fast bowlers themselves average 38 GDS points. So that's a potential option there. You could play both of them. If you're concerned about Stark and the weather and you don't want to have that pivot, then you could play both of them knowing that they've got the 2 games. The question mark for me would be whether Doggett does play that second game as well, or Behrendorff comes back and plays that second game, and Doggett then gets rested according to CA's management plan or whatever. We just don't know what's going on in the background, I guess. And we've seen that in the past. Obviously, we just see it with Joshy Inglis. So, yeah, for me, I'm also leaning Gurinder Sandhu, knowing probably he will have the 2 games behind him.
Yep, can't argue with that.
Perfect. Alrighty, let's jump into our consensus 11 and let's run through that. We've got Josh Phillippe at the top. We've got Steve Smith, Finn Allen, and Cooper Connolly. Our all-rounders are Jack Edwards, Aaron Hardy, Sam Curran, and we've currently got Will Sutherland, and we'll come back to that in a moment. And then our bowlers are Mitch Stark, Gurinder Sandhu, and David Payne. Will Sutherland there. Stoinis has got that little bit of a finger injury, I believe. He's going to get some scans. There's no word yet. So we're just playing it safe at the moment with the Will Sutherland call. Obviously, if you're going to bring Stoinis in, maybe there's an opportunity there where he comes in for, say, the Curran or Jack Edwards. And again, that's obviously the big asterisk over all of those Sixers players. But did you want to talk through the pods quickly, Stu?
Yeah, just quickly on Stoinis. I think it's just recently come back that he won't require scans, and a big relief, obviously, for his T20 World Cup likelihood of performing there. So that's obviously good signs there for his availability for their match. Given that I think they're guaranteed a top 2 spot, aren't they? Maybe they won't force him back into the team if their position on the ladder can't change. I'm not too sure about the maths just yet. So certainly something to keep an eye out for. He's obviously been in stellar form though, so if he's named on the team sheet, can definitely play him. If he's currently in your team, like he is across most of our teams, then you can just pivot across to someone like Tommy Curran that might see a tick in terms of batting opportunity with no Stoinis in the side. But yeah, finger injuries can be just a little pain tolerance and annoying little or aggravating type things. But look, he's a professional. He's been doing it time and time again. He wants to lead the Stars to their first ever tournament victory in the Big Bash. He's not going to let that derail his season. In terms of pods, you spoke about Mitchy Marsh. We spoke a little bit about Matty Short as well. We've just highlighted here how many options there are through the all-rounder position. Do you take guys with the double ups? Obviously, those 4 on screen have the 2 matches at least on paper anyway. The weather might have something to say about that. Matty Short, only the 1 game, but he's got one of the biggest ceilings in the tournament. He hasn't shown it as consistently as we would have liked, but he could certainly have a bigger game than any of those 4 on screen. And you've already put a pretty nice case forward for Mitchy Marsh. Very same to Matty Short, but no bowling whatsoever. It's got to be done with the bat. That's why the 4 guys on screen currently provide, the little bit more safety in terms of 4 overs, but certainly not the same sort of opportunity with the bat.
Yeah, definitely. Alrighty, let's jump across to Brodown Showdown, and it's getting tight. We had a great result here for Matty Renshaw and the Heats. Obviously, Matt Short had a disappointing game. Harris Ralph did all his damage in the field, and then Renshaw took the victory with 58 GDS points. So that means you get another point on, I think it is 5-3-2 to Haz at the moment. So correct. Anyone that commented Stu last round is in the draw. So let's jump across to that wheel and let's see who's going to win a prize today. So on screen, you should see the wheel. We've got TC BBB, we've got Maxi, we've got John PB8, and we've got Timo. Congratulations to those 4. Let's see who wins. Unreal. It is TCBB. Great work, mates. Thank you for joining along. And then I'm going to jump across. I might just refresh.
Oh, look at those packs.
Alrighty. So we've got a 3-player rare for TCBB to be.
Yep.
So it's taking so long. Everyone's trying to make their last minute changes. Sleep.
I currently am as well.
3-player rare coming up. Here we go. Alrighty. Good luck, TC BBB. Let's see if we can get something good. Alrighty. We're starting off with a Callum Vidler from the Heat. That is a gold. Riley Meredith gold from the Canes. And then we've got a platinum Cameron Boyce. So TC Triple B, hit us up over on Discord or Instagram and we'll organise those packs to you. Now, Stu, I wasn't super organised, so you can have a selection of either 3 1-player rare or a 3-player common. What would you like, mate?
Just run with the common for the timing so that I can get my team sorted.
Love it. That's a
good
call.
TCB will probably get a couple of these as well, or he can maybe pick one.
Unreal. Let's see what we've got here. We've got a gold Hayden Kerr. We've got Ben Menenti. Can we get a Sixers triple? And a Cooper Conley gold. There you go. There you You go.
PCB, if you're desperate for a Cooper Conley gold, if you don't have one, let us know. Chuck that into the trade as well if you want to get him before tonight's match. That's your call, buddy.
Yeah, good call. Thanks there, Stu. Alrighty, on screen, we've all gone for the Scorchers this round. As I said, Haz is up 5-3-2. Great to see him on debut having a cracker. He's gone with Jai Richardson tonight. Aaron Hardy is Stu's pick, and then I'm going with Cooper Conley. So if you think that Haz is going to take it out, comment Haz. If you think Stu's going to get it done with Aaron Hardy, comment Stu. Or if you think Cooper Conley, the absolute gold mine that he's been this season in the bat position, is going to get it done, comment Dill. And just like TC Triple B, you can be in the running to win some Unreal cards, and I will be well more organised next game and get next round, and have some packs ready to go. Alrighty, make sure you get your comments in. That is about it for us tonight. Obviously, a lot of decisions to be made over the next 15 minutes. Plenty of things to consider with the rain around, with potential pivot options. I think for me, the best thing I'm going to do is probably load up on the players that I definitely want to play from the Renegades and the Scorchers, and then play my sixes at the moment, but have those pivot options ready to go from the Stars and the Strikers. I think I'm going to put a line through Heat players completely. Playing the last game with thunderstorms around, I just don't want to risk it at all. So line through the Heat, and then look at, hopefully, we get at least one game for the Sixers. If not, that's an easy pivot. And we're going to run with some Stars and some Strikers. Perfect. Alrighty. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. Don't forget, if you missed anything, you can head back to the YouTube channel and rewatch the next 15 minutes worth before the game gets underway. You can also catch up on Apple or Spotify. Thank you very much. It's been an unreal season. We've got round 15, which is the first part of the finals, coming to you. That'll either be Monday or Tuesday. We're just working out logistics there. Then we're also going to have the semi, or whatever you call the finals. I don't even know what the challenger, whatever they are. They'll be coming to you later in the week as well. And then we'll have a massive grand final show Sunday week. So stay tuned for all of that. Make sure that you are subscribing to the YouTube channel at Fantasy Bros AU. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, everywhere that you get your social media and your content. Thank you very much for joining us, Stu. Good luck, mate. Any last minute words for the viewers before we head off?
Can we do a rain dance? Is that a positive thing? A rain dance? Can we do the rain dance version where the rain goes away? We don't want rain.
Yeah.
Just for the next couple of nights for the cricket. I'm not sure what you have to ask for, but if anyone can get it in touch with the weather gods, no rain, please. But then send it out to the farmers that need it, etc.
Yeah.
After this weekend. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Good luck, Dill.